Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I'm joined by Docherty. She's a psychic medium and mentor. She supports souls on both sides of the veil by bridging communication between the physical and non physical world. She is passionate about the healing power of these conversations for who is left earthside after a loved one has passed, as well as for the soul who is now on the spirit side. She also teaches others to skillfully and reliably use and trust their own intuitive, maybe even psychic abilities so that they can be fully connected to the guidance from within and beyond. Karen, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here and thank you so much for inviting me.
So, we're just going to jump right in. Can you maybe share the story of how you first discovered your psychic abilities and realized that you could bridge the gap between the physical and non physical world?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it took a lot of time. It was something that if I go back to my childhood, I was always aware of other people that I knew weren't from here. I didn't know where they were from. It's not like I had this kind of inner knowledge that, they must be from a spiritual realm,
Yeah.
but I just understood that they weren't physical, but I could still see them and hear them. And so throughout my childhood, that continued, and then into my teens, where it became more intense. I would pick things up about people that I didn't know. And so I knew that there was something going on, but I didn't really understand that it was a mediumship
Mhm.
or that I could connect in that way. And that came a little bit later because I followed mediums work. I read books. I was just so drawn to mediumship all the time from a young age. And when I started to speak to a medium who was serving like a local spiritualist church, we have quite a lot of them over here in the UK. She said, "Oh, but you're a medium." And I said, "Oh, no, I'm definitely not a medium." And she said, "Oh, you are very much a medium." So she asked me to go and sit within a development group. And the first day that I went, I just suddenly felt like, oh, this is what it was. And I just felt like me. I felt like I was home. I felt like the penny had dropped. And from that moment onwards, I have worked with spirit continuously.
I love that. And I also appreciate the fact that you were already drawn to mediums and maybe didn't quite have a connection yet to what it was, but that you were guided by mediums within your area and probably internationally. I'm somebody who really loved Sylvia Brown when she was on
Mhm.
Montel Williams.
Yeah. Mhm.
I loved how she was like very stern, but it was
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
respected her, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I remember watching her many times and other TV mediums. And one, John Edward, he was one that I watched a lot. Very drawn to his mediumship from a young age, and just feeling like that completely speaks to me. But even when I felt that, it wasn't because I felt I could do that, even though
Right.
I knew I could on some level, but I never would have called myself a medium. And I guess it's that human part of you as well that thinks, I'm not good enough to do that, or I don't have that special gift, that I could go and do
Yeah.
that. But I was so in awe of other people doing it. So when it finally made sense and clicked, I was like, you have done this your whole life and you just didn't realize you were doing it. So then it kind of gave it a name for me, and it gave it some
Yeah.
focus and dedication. And then I just worked from there.
Oh, I love that. And I also like the fact that you kind of humanized your abilities. Like maybe you didn't trust in them and maybe a confidence thing. And I know it's for psychics and mediums and healers. And regardless of any profession, sometimes they have an imposter syndrome thing going on. But then it's like, no, I can really do this.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is huge. It's like anything, isn't it? Even for maybe artists or singers
Yes.
or actors, you've got that side where you know that you can do it and it's within you and it's a natural thing, but there's also that human side to your mind saying, really,
Right.
can you? It's that fear. And I
Right.
think particularly with mediumship for me, I knew that it was a huge responsibility. So straight away, I understood it's going to be with vulnerable people, it's going
Mm,
to be people that are in grief or lost in life or whatever. You need to make sure that you can do what you say you're going to do. So for me, it was a real moment of realization of this is huge. So,
absolutely.
you've got to know what you're talking about.
So, one of the things that you connect with is obviously loved ones on the other side. So, often they communicate through signs. Can you maybe give us some guidance on how to recognize these signs and how to maybe interpret them effectively?
Yeah, I know it signs, people often say they don't get signs or they've had a sign, but they're not sure if it's a sign, and we tend to like take it into our mind and let our
Mm,
mind question it. And the one thing I would say is if it felt like a sign right in that moment for you and you felt the presence of that, then trust that that is the truth. Now, the spirit world cannot like just be big and bold all the time. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to get that type of communication, but they can give you signs like music, pieces of music coming on when you're thinking about them and it's their song, or coins is another one. I call it pennies from heaven, where, you know, suddenly you're finding like small coins in places that you know there shouldn't be any. Birds, you know, butterflies, all of these things are signs from spirit. Dreams is a big one, you know, the loved ones visiting within dreams. And it's all because they cannot penetrate very easily this physical world. They cannot just appear. If they could do that, they would all do that, and then we would have no room to doubt it on any level. We wouldn't need mediums. So they can't do it like that. So they do come in a more subtle way. But to recognize it, I would say, if you feel it within that moment, within yourself, then
Mm.
trust that it's a sign.
Oh, I love that. I will say that my grandmother likes to leave dimes in the dryer.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
And
yeah,
you
hi,
know,
grandma.
yeah, exactly. And you know, the thing is, you believe it, and your grandma in
Yes.
the spirit side is like, yes, she got that sign. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that we forget sometimes. You know, our loved ones in spirit, they're elated when we recognize the sign or feel that they have been there. Whereas if we keep saying, oh, well, you know, I kind of thought it was a sign, but maybe not, then that person in the spirit world's like, oh, I'll try again. You know, I'll
Yeah.
keep trying. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, mediumship is often described as a healing practice. Can you maybe elaborate on your how your work as a psychic medium brings healing to both those on the spiritual side and those here on earth?
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest part of mediumship is healing. That is the purpose of mediumship. And I think these days, because there's so much out there now, because there's a lot on social media and, you know, everyone's doing live readings and it's all about the communication, I think that people forget that actually the biggest part of mediumship is to heal. And I feel very strongly about the healing on both sides. So, what I mean by that, if I have a woman coming to see me and she wants to connect with her father, let's say, that communication really does heal her because it helps her with her grief and it lets her understand that her dad hasn't died and that he's still alive in a different form. He gets to say what he wants to her, so he'll get to say what he needs to say that he didn't maybe get to say before he left this
Mhm.
earth. And so I can feel for the father the healing that took place on that side because he is now at peace that he got to talk to his daughter. And the healing for the daughter is that she knows her dad's there. So it does bring healing on both sides of the veil. It's not just one or the other. And for me, being the conduit to that and me being part of that is a huge blessing for me. And I absolutely love my work because of that, because I can feel what it does.
So, let me ask you this. What do you love most and what is most challenging about your work?
What I love the most, I should say, is the feeling of, you know, just that peace that I was able to help in some way, that peace of knowing that I have managed to bring spirit forward, to bring evidential mediumship. Because for me, the feeling of working for those in the spirit side, it is huge, and it's something that I never take for granted. So when I do a reading or work in any way, audience readings, whatever it might be, I know in the spirit side they are pleased with it. I know that I've done my best for them. That doesn't mean it has to, you know, it can go to plan all the time. There's times where it doesn't, or the connection's not strong, or
Mhm.
whatever. But at the end of the day, I am here to do my best for the spirit side of life. So that's what I love the absolute most. And then seeing the results of that play out in someone's life. The thing that's most challenging, though, as a medium, is that obviously you've got skeptics out there, and you should. And I always say to people, be skeptical
Mm.
until you feel like you shouldn't be. So you don't know me. I can be, you know, you can make an appointment with me and you don't know me and you're just meant to believe me. That can't happen. So it has to be that there's evidence to support what I'm saying. The skeptical side of things doesn't bother me, but the challenge comes when I see a lot in social media or TV or widespread information that's a misconception or bad mediumship that maybe somebody thinks they're a medium, they're given information, it's really not the way the spirit world work, and it does damage. And
Yes.
that's a challenge when people come to me for a reading and they've maybe had a bad experience or a poor experience, and then having to kind of put that right and let them understand what takes place. That's a challenge.
And I like the fact that you brought up that you're an evidential medium. And I feel like evidential medium, and if you can explain a little bit about what an evidential medium is and why it's, I feel like being an evidential medium is so important when you're getting readings. And if you could explain a little bit about that.
Yes, so the evidential part of things is the most important part of any reading, because as a medium, I can say to someone, oh, I have your mother here and she's saying that you're going to move house, or that she's saying she was with you last night, but there's no evidence of that. That's just me talking, that's just words. But if I was to say, I have your mother here and she passed away when she was 69 and she passed with lung cancer, and she was with you at your wedding that took place after she passed, and you're wearing her ring, then that's evidence. That's, that person can say, well, that's true, that's factual. And that's what evidence is. And the purpose of evidential mediumship is to prove that they are still here. So likewise, someone might connect, a medium can connect and say, I've got your mum here and she worked as a teacher and she drove a pink car and she had 3 children. Now that's might be factual, it might be correct, but it's still not evidential to
Mm,
support that she's still here, because all those things happened in the past. And a medium can pick up those things psychically from anyone. Like I can connect with anyone and know who their family is and kind of what the family entailed of. So to make it evidential, I have to say, so all of those things about your mum are correct, but also she is talking about being at school sports day with your son when he won the race, because that happened after she passed, and that proves that she's here after the event. So that's what evidential mediumship is.
I really like that how you put that. And I guess to be very honest, I'm not sure if I ever like made that connection of, you need to connect them to events that maybe in a body, physical body, they didn't participate in, but they're there
Yeah.
in spirit. I really
Yes.
like that. That's so interesting. I'm having a moment with this. Can you tell? I'm like,
Yeah.
she's so right. I like it, but it's like you put another layer of evidence on top of the evidence. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it should be, because your mum's going to come forward from spirit and tell you about her life, of course, and her
yeah.
children and everything. But also, why wouldn't she say, "Oh, your mum's in your new house. You've bought a new house since your mum crossed over. She's seen it and she loves the garden gate." That's different than just the
Right.
past. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I like that so much. So let me ask you this. What is it like when you connect with the spirit world and bring through messages? Can you maybe describe some of the sensations and experiences you go through some of these interactions?
Everyone in the spirit side that comes forward all communicate their own way. So what I mean by that is I might have a gentleman that steps forward and he will allow me to hear him. He will be able to get the messages to me through my clairaudience, which is
Mm,
hearing. And then I might have a lady coming forward who can communicate through showing me her feelings, or showing me pictures or symbolisms or things that I can see with my eyes. Someone else might come in and they show themselves to me so I can describe them. So it all works very differently for every part. And, as an example, if I'm working with a man who worked as a farmer, let's say, I will hear in the background, I will hear cattle, or I will hear, tractor engines, or, I will hear the hustle and bustle behind
yeah.
someone to know, oh, this is what they did. So it can work on every sense with me when I'm working. There's like 5 or 10 different things going on all at once. So for me, I'm just in that moment. Like I'm really not very present within the room, because I'm more present with your loved one. And then
Yeah.
I'm just kind of letting that communication flow through me.
I like that. You are really like psychically in tune with all of your senses. So as being a medium who works with clients, and you said you give large groups and you're a mentor, how do you manage yourself as an energetic being? And do you have ways to maybe have boundaries set up, or do you turn it on and off? Like, what are some of the practices that
Mhm.
you do to maintain your spiritual hygiene?
Yeah, you do have to take care of your energy. Any energy workers will know that you do have to make sure that you, number one, are not depleted fully, because you need energy for your own life too. So there is that part where, when I work, I work. When I'm not working, I'm not thinking about it. I just kind of switch off, do my everyday things that I need to do at home and such like. So there is a boundary there, because it can become too much. And I remember when I first started, people wanted readings all the time, and I would try to accommodate everyone. I didn't want to say no to anyone. I didn't want to make them wait even 2 weeks. So then it became me looking at my diary, feeling completely overwhelmed for the week ahead, because I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to, do all of this?
Right.
So it was a learning curve for me to say, no, you have to take your time out. You have to understand that this is energy work, and I can't leave myself completely empty. So yeah, you learn that as you go, and I feel like I'm good at it now, but I still look at my diary sometimes, and my calendar, and say, oh, you forgot that you had already put 3 extra ones in there, and also because it's for vulnerable people or people that really need help in that moment. It's not easy to say, oh, I can't speak to you for another 6 weeks, so you do try to accommodate, but you do have to have boundaries as well, or it would be too much.
It's hard, like you said, as an energy healer and as somebody who's intuitive, sometimes it's hard to say no. And it's like, I'm sure for you, it's probably taken years and years of practice. And, we still have our
Yeah.
moments where we're like,
Yeah, you do. And, even in your own personal life, because
yeah,
people know what you do, and, I've got sisters and friends and, people that, I have in my life, and even they will be like, oh, guess what happened? What do you think of that? And can you tune in for me for a minute just to see? And they're not doing it in a selfish way. They're doing it in a
no,
way like, oh, maybe you'll be able to offer me some insight. And
right.
most of the times it's fine, but there's some days where you're like, I can't. I just
I
can't.
will say that, I have a friend who's also a psychic medium, and sometimes I'll be like, don't, Rachel, like she's a human too. And sometimes chill out, because she'll say, this person just connected in this, and I'm like, say no.
Yeah,
But she
I
won't. I
know.
mean,
It's
you're
so
the same.
difficult.
You guys are so
Yeah.
nice and so giving. It's a beautiful gift. And it's hard not to say yes.
Yeah,
But
and you want to help, and you want to
yeah,
feel like I've done my service. You're working as a service to spirit. And if you're influenced to do that and something comes up, you want to do that,
of
but
course.
there is times where, like, I'm in the supermarket and people, I might bump into someone that I've read for in the past, or that I know, and I know they're looking at me thinking, oh, I wonder if she's picking anything up. And I'm like, I don't even remember why I'm in here. I've come in for my shopping.
I love that. And you know what? When you say that, what is coming up to me is that Teresa Caputo. And I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever watched her show.
It's
And she's,
because of shows like that, though, I think
yes,
that people think you're switched on all the time. And of course,
yes.
a show like that is edited, it's set up. She
It's
doesn't just
not,
walk into a random shop. There's cameras behind the counter. There's but because of these shows, I think people think that's what mediums do. They walk into
yes.
a room and they just start picking
And it's
things up.
like,
It
she
just
does
doesn't.
this like weird thing. And you're like, that's not true. Like, it's not true. You're
No,
not
no.
hopping up to someone and be like, your mom. Like,
No,
no.
you don't do that. On a serious note, you shouldn't do that, because ethically, you don't know what someone believes. You don't know
Oh,
what their
yes.
relationship was with, let's say, their mum. You just can't read for someone unless you have permission to do it. But
Yeah,
these shows on TV, and there's some over here in the UK as well, it makes it hard.
it
That's a
does.
challenge, because people do tend to think that's what mediums do, and mediums do not. We do not go about reading or picking up lots of information all at once.
Right. I mean, could you imagine if you're going to get your milk and then you're like, wait a second, like, you don't have time for that. You're a
You
busy
don't.
woman too.
And it's not like you can't. I mean, I've been in places. I was at a concert once and immediately picked up this man in the spirit side. I knew it was his wife in front of me. He was telling me that he'd had his leg amputated before he passed, and he was telling me all this. And I was saying to him, I can't do anything with this information. I can't tell this lady this, and we were in a loud concert venue. And
Right.
so you will, as a medium, naturally pick up on spirit because he
Right.
was around his wife. So I'm going to pick that up, but it doesn't mean that it's meant to be a message. It doesn't
Gotcha.
mean that it has to be a communication.
You just brought though a good point though about having ethics in mediumship. And for you as a psychic medium and a mentor, like, how do you implement ethics within your practices?
Yeah, ethics are huge for me. And it's something anyone that knows me or knows my work know that I go on about this, because I really feel there's so much damage that's done from workers that are not ethical. What I mean by that is maybe adding to the person's problems. Or, I mean, I've had people come to me for readings that have had a poor experience, and you know, maybe what they've experienced, you just think that just shouldn't have happened. So ethics for me, meaning take care of the client, take care of their feelings, take care of their needs, take care of the spirit person's needs, and always remain diplomatic, you know,
Mhm.
always remain where you're not letting someone walk away from the reading feeling worse or feeling that they are in fear. You know, you'll get people coming with health questions, and you'll pick things up like that, and you know, you're there to kind of make them better and give them strength, not to let them walk away with more questions or worry. So
Yeah.
ethics for me, and I do hear it, you know, I do hear mediums saying things sometimes and think, why would you do that? Or why would you say that? You know, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I like that you want to have your client leave you kind of, more empowered than when they came to you. Like
Hmm.
that's important to you. I will
Hmm.
say that, I myself am somebody who has experienced, really terrible ratings that made you feel like I'm a terrible human being, and it's like, what benefit is somebody getting when you leave somebody with that kind of damaging message,
That comes more from the medium's own needs and own ego.
Yeah.
Because if you're truly working in the power of spirit don't do that. They're not
Yeah.
going to do that. Whoever is in front of you, even if they're going through a hard time, or there is something that they're struggling with in life that maybe they haven't made the best decision, you still don't leave them feeling worse.
Yes.
You bring forward information from spirit that can only help them on their journey.
Yeah.
So I think that if it doesn't happen that way, it's really from the medium's own insecurities or
Right.
own ego. It's their take on the situation. It's nothing to do with spirit.
Right. Wow. One of the things that you teach about is how to connect people with their spirit guides. Can you maybe give us 4 tools on how to sense them, know them, and how to communicate with them?
The biggest one I would give, and it kind of covers them all really,
That's
is
fine.
meditation. You know, it's
Yes.
meditation. Now, people hear the word meditation and they automatically will either say, oh yeah, I do meditate, but I don't get a lot of time, or I tried and it doesn't work, and because life's busy and my mind's too busy and I can't switch off. And the biggest thing I would say is you don't have to sit down in a quiet room for an hour to meditate. Meditation comes in many different forms. So you could go for a walk in the park and you're meditating. You're just chilling out, you're doing some breath work, taking deep breaths in, focusing on the breath, and that is a meditation. You could be standing washing dishes in a kind of entranced state of mind because you're thinking of other things. That is meditation. So reading a book can be meditation, because although you're focusing on the words, you are allowing yourself to come away from this world for a little while.
Right.
So there's different ways to meditate, but if you can facilitate meditation on some level, then you can learn to connect with your higher self, which is the power within you, which then in turn will connect with your loved ones in spirit, your guides, your helpers. And you can start to do a practice of the one that I do a lot, and I think it helps people, is say to them, when you close your eyes and go into meditation, just imagine a room in your mind's eye. Just imagine a room, and it might be outside, it could even be on the beach, but just imagine this place where you feel relaxed. In that place, every time you go there now, you ask your guides and helpers to step forward. And it might not work the first time and it might not work the second time, but eventually it will work. And what you're doing in that moment is creating a space where
Mm.
you will automatically go with your soul in order to make that communication with your guides, and your guides will know that, so they will blend with you in that space. So that's one of the better ways to do it, I feel, that makes a difference to people.
I love that piece of advice, like almost like automatic programming. Like, and then when you go in, they'll connect with you. It might just take
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah, it always takes time, and I think that we get impatient as human beings. We want everything now, and we live in this express world where everything's like on tap at your fingertips. And spiritual development, it certainly doesn't work like that. It takes time and it takes dedication, and you know, it's not, I wouldn't say like it's hard work, but I would
Right.
say it's disciplined. You know, you
You're
have to
right.
be disciplined,
And you need to be consistent with your practice.
very consistent. Yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like when you're saying that, I think of Amazon and how, we get same day deliveries. And it's like, what world are we living
everything,
in that I can get my
everything's
cat
like,
litter today? Like,
mhm. Yep, and you expect it, and that's it. And what that does is it trains our mind to that, like everything can come like this.
right.
spiritual development can't happen like that, because some people will go into spiritual development to develop mediumship. They
Mm.
want to develop psychic skills, but actually the only place you can start is developing yourself, and to understand your power, to understand your higher self, where that connection is. Where do you feel that connection? That is the connection you need first before any mediumship develops.
That's so true. Before I ask you the last question, if anyone is interested in learning more about you, booking a session, where's the best place for them to go to?
So my website is karendocherty.com. And everything's on there. The mentorship that I do is on there. And for me, the mentorship was important to create programs, because when I started my own development, there was not really anyone to ask. Although there were a few local mediums and things, nobody kind of done help with that training, development, that kind of thing. So I made my mind up then, one day I will mentor other students. And my program is only for the few. So you have to apply for it, because I don't really believe in having 100 students, because you have to, mentorship is mentorship, right? It's for the uniqueness to that person and what they need to enhance their skills. So that's what my mentorship's all about. So I've got some programs on there
Yeah,
with that on the website, personal consultations, urgent personal consultations are on there as well. And just about the work that I do.
I love that. So finally, Karen, considering your extensive knowledge and experience, what advice or insights would you like for our listeners to offer for those maybe that seeking to explore their own intuitive or psychic abilities, which may include your mentorship as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anyone to do it. Now, some people won't know where to start, or some people might be listening and thinking, well, I would like that. I don't know if I have a skill, or I don't know if I can do it. Trust me, you will never regret it. There's no one that I've ever spoken to that's done development that says afterwards, I wish I hadn't done that. It can only improve. And it's not about just communicating with loved ones. It's about understanding your own power, which will enhance your own life 100 times over. Because knowing who you are, knowing that you are spirit form, knowing that you can reach heights will change the whole outlook to your life. So I would encourage anyone to do that.
That is amazing. Well, Karen, I thank you so much for on the Spiritual Spotlight series. It's truly been amazing to speak with you today.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.